In parallel with addressing the aircraft carrier issues, we've been working on submarine changes for quite some time now. We'll implement these changes gradually over the course of a few upcoming updates, and you can expect to see the first major changes with update 13.1 and 13.2. They're pushing this out quickly. This is January and February. So this is also good, because you know what this means? It means that they have acknowledged that yes, submarines are a shit show. Yes, they're driving people away from the game. They can no longer ignore the dropping player numbers and the complaints about them, and they are actually pushing through this as quickly as they can, because clearly you can tell that clearly this past year they looked at the numbers and they've gone like, oh shit, we actually have to do something about what the player base is asking. So that's a good thing. They're acknowledging that both carriers and subs are an issue, something which of course good players have been telling them for a very long time. But hey, I'm glad Wargaming finally pulled their heads out of their asses and they're paying attention to the players. It took some time, but I'm really glad to see it. Like, we told you so times a fucking million, but I'm glad you're doing something about it. The upcoming changes are aimed to address the following problems. The situation where current mechanics allow submarines to perform successful shotgunning of enemy ships. Shotgunning is when a submarine surfaces in close range to enemy surface ships and launches a devastating salvo of torpedoes that are very difficult to evade. Wow! I distinctly remember a developer telling us how shotgunning is not an issue. How shotgunning is not a real thing. And then if it would be a real thing, it's exceedingly rare. I distinctly remember a developer repeatedly parroting these dumb fucking claims to us players. I repeatedly remember it. Do we have a clip? Do we fucking have a clip of him fucking repeating this dumb shit where he says shotgunning is not an issue? Do we have a clip? Can we dig up a clip on that? Once again, I am glad. On one hand, I'm sad because this past year must have been a fucking disaster for Wargaming if they're willing to admit this kind of shit. Like, this past year must have been a fucking disaster because they're admitting the things we the players have been complaining about for a long time, and they are eating their words. And man, these words cannot taste good. That's what I gotta say. They cannot taste good. Like, this has to be a fucking sour pill for Wargaming to swallow, to publicly admit that yes, both of these classes and these mechanics are a fucking issue, and we actually have to resolve them. I'm sure also all the submarine players that have been parroting and explaining to me on YouTube and everywhere how shotgunning is not an issue, I'm sure they will also man up and apologize for their ignorance. It's okay, guys. I understand you're retarded because you're submarine players, so I expected nothing else from you. I'm glad you're manning up and apologizing. Your apology is accepted. We already knew you were fucking mentally disabled when you played this class, but I'm glad to hear that you now understand that even the developer thinks you're a fucking problem, so well done. Well done. Oh, is that a clip? Is that a clip? That looks like a clip. What is this?
Great success. Damn, I just got.
No, we've seen this one.
Okay.
This is when he gets shotgun trying to. But this was after he said that, though. This was after he said that, though.
Ooh. Great success.
No, this was just a clip of him with shotgun. The reason that clip became popular was because it came after he said that shotgunning wasn't the thing. That's what I was asking about. The clip where he fucking denied that it was a thing. Gato is an admission. Gato is an admission that shotgunning is wanted. It's literally signed to do only that. Yeah, I know. What is that clip? Oh yeah, that's an ad for shotgunning. Yeah, I know. Anyway, let's move on. I'm just glad to see them eating their words, man. I'm glad to see them eating their. I can't help it. It brings a fucking smile to my face to see after being shoveled horseshit about how this is what the silent majority wants and how we're exaggerating and how it's not that bad. Watching them fucking eat all their words, like it feels pretty fucking good. I have heavy I told you so energy right now. I have very heavy I told you so energy right now. It feels pretty fucking good. I gotta say that. A lack of consistent and understandable interaction between submarine and surface ship, and in particular, lack of additional ways for both sides to counter each other. both sides to counter each other. What you're fucking trying to say here is lack of counters against a good submarine player for a surface ship. That's the issue. Once again, something we told them since the start. Well done, Wargaming. Well done. I told you so. We told you so. At the same time, we want to maintain the current level of combat effectiveness of submarines in battle, which we plan to achieve through a series of balance changes, as well as updating commander skills, upgrades, and signals. I get an idea that everything that you're about to do could easily be solved by just making so that proxy spotting worked against subs, just the same way it works against all other ships, and hydro acoustic search worked against subs, just the way it works against all other ships. I think a core issue here is that they want to keep them as a separate special protected class, the same way carriers are being kept as a separate special class. They want to keep this shit up. And many of these issues could be solved by just making it part of every other class. Like, you have the same mechanics as everyone else, with your own flavor. That would probably be the best way to balance. But let's see. Italian and German cruiser tech branches, Venezia and Hindenburg lines, as well as several premium heavy cruisers. Why premium heavy cruisers? Will receive plane-based anti-submarine warfare. Okay, something we've been asked for a long time. I'm glad to see it, replacing their ship-based depth charges, which are a joke. This means that all heavy cruisers, except Dutch cruisers who have their own HE bomb airstrike, will have plane-based ASW. At this point, I'm pretty sure they don't know how to add this to Dutch cruisers. Because there's no logical explanations why Dutch cruisers wouldn't be able to send ASW planes. I think at this point, this spaghetti code which we spoke about earlier is a huge issue for them. They have no idea how to add both an airstrike and an ASW airstrike. It's probably all coded into... Be it D7P as both? Does it? Then why the fuck don't they get ASW? I think they don't know how to handle the combination of glue new unique upgrade and glue always taking airstrike blood. Does D7P really have both? Do we have D7 Provincia? Let's see, Dutch cruiser. Dutch cruiser. Fuck, where is it? Let's see, Dutch. D7 Provincia, yeah. Does it really have both? No, it doesn't. You're full of shit. Anyone, you're absolutely full of shit. That's what I think. I think this is a coding thing. I think this is a spaghetti coding thing. This is a spaghetti coding thing where they don't know how to do an HE bomb airstrike and an ASW airstrike at once. They don't know how to code that. And if they could code it, I think the issue is with people taking cooldown reduction, like let's say the legendary mod, might break the ASW mod as well. Because this I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but they tried on PTS at one point. They changed the airstrikes, the ASW airstrikes. They reduced the cooldown of ASW airstrikes by something like 30%, or was it even 40%? And when we went to public test server and tested it, it turned out that this global change had affected all Dutch airstrikes. So the Dutch cruisers had a super short cooldown on their airstrikes. So there's clearly heavy interlinking in the code between the different airstrikes. We had a 30-second Guten Glue airstrike. And we played a lot and laughed about it and had fun. But I think this is part of their spaghetti code issues. The code is so old and convoluted that they don't know how to separate these things anymore in their code without one thing fucking up the other and so forth. So this is, I think, the reason why they're not adding it to Dutch cruisers who absolutely would need to have plane-based ASW. In fact, it makes most sense that Dutch cruisers who already have plane-based HE bomb airstrikes could instead send ASW airstrikes. It makes perfect sense. Thank you, Ronnie. Merry Christmas to you as well. Back when they nerfed damage on German AP for the battle cruisers and ended up nerfing the old BB lines as well. Yeah, exactly. Like, the code is so convoluted at this point. Additionally, we also plan to add depth charges on destroyers Leone and a Hotnik. Okay. We're planning to improve the ASW armament of mid-tier ships, improving their effectiveness against tier 6 and 8 submarines. We will share some detailed information. Yeah, the issue is they don't do any damage. They do even less than top tier. And they basically tickle the subs. Because you not just have smaller airstrikes with less bombs. The alpha is also a joke. Okay. Some cruiser branches will receive submarine surveillance consumable. What? See, I thought hydroacoustic search was developed in World War II as a way to spot submarines. I mean, radio positioning finder was also used to track submarines. But I was under the impression that the whole point of hydro was a submarine countermeasure. So, hydroacoustic search... I'm gonna go back to the very start where I said everything they're doing could probably be instead fixed by just making hydro spot subs. Anyway, some cruiser branches will receive submarine surveillance consumables. So hydro, but historically accurate hydro. We're planning to add this to the upcoming Commonwealth cruiser line. Of course, it's a new ship line, so they get the goodies. As well as Italian and Japanese cruiser branches Venezia, Zao, and Yodo. Okay, well, I like that Zao and Yodo is getting buffs. This is good. But this is like, these are backline ships. Venezia is also a backline ship. They're not exactly frontline ships that they're adding them to. And also, I understand we've moved very far away from history in World War ships nowadays. It's sad. But like, the nations that suffered the heaviest from submarine attacks were especially the British and the Americans. And they were the lead developers of anti-submarine warfare because of the convoys crossing the Atlantic and the convoys being sent to Russia and so forth. These were constantly under attack by submarines. So these were the leading developers of anti-submarine warfare. And to see that they will not have any tools against them except their hydro, but then Venezia's out, it's just weird. But I mean, I'm glad there's another counterplay being added. It's just weird. Why doesn't example Goliath get it? Goliath could use a helping hand, and it would make a lot of sense for a British heavy cruiser to have it. Anyway, this will provide these cruisers with an interesting new facet of gameplay, especially considering that they do not have a large number of consumables. Adding this consumable to the branch of Commonwealth cruisers will diversify their gameplay, as well as enhance the sub-hunter role already inherent in them through enhanced ASW. Create the problem, sell the solution. More branches might receive this consumable, but our goal is not to provide this to all cruisers, similar to the distribution of surveillance radar or hydroacoustic search. Okay, but the problem is this really doesn't help any of the frontline ships. It's like this really doesn't help anyone trying to push in anywhere, because Venezia, Zao, and Yodo are not pushing ships at all. They're like mid-range, mid to long range, either HE or SAP spammers. And none of these are pushing, so this really doesn't alleviate the pressure the submarines do to the front line. Like, you try to push in with cruisers or battleships or shit, even destroyers, they don't have any tools against these subs. And the ones that have tools against the subs are going to be playing like 5 to 6 kilometers behind you. So how the hell does that help? And I mean, their idea of interesting solutions is making Hydra work the way it should. We also plan to change the mechanics of the Hydrophone consumable, okay? It's intended for more defensive than offensive use, so we'll limit its functionality to highlight ships only momentarily on the minimap in a certain radius, similar to hydroacoustic search surveillance radar. Yeah, except that it's only minimap spotting, not all spotting. I wish they just would make it so that ships that get detected by this would know that they're being detected by it. That's something we've been asking for a long time, and that's one of the key core gameplay elements that submarines are breaking right now. They can spot you without you knowing that you're spotted, and that's a huge issue. Visually, this consumable will work the same way as before. Additionally, the consumable will now be able to detect targets even through terrain. So hydroacoustic search can't spot the submarine underneath you, but the submarine's hydrophone can spot ships behind islands. Okay. When submarines use it to highlight the ship above them and in their line of sight, that ship will appear as a silhouette only for a short period, about 6 seconds, and then disappear. Targets behind the terrain will be displayed as a short flash without a silhouette. This change removes the ability for submarines to closely track their targets and thus pulling off successful shotgunning interactions more difficult. This should also make this consumable function closer to hydroacoustic search and surveillance radar, making it easier to grasp and understand. I mean, the thing is, they solved shotgunning. That's the thing. They actually solved shotgunning. The idea that they're somehow struggling to solve shotgunning is a weird argument to me, because they actually did solve it at one point. Well, they actually did solve it at one point. I can even show you. Once again, we have the receipts. Let's see, can we find it? Oh, here we go. Here, I can show you the receipts. So this devlog was posted. This devlog was posted the 2nd of. This devlog was posted the 2nd of June, 2022. And what they wanted to do was limit shotgunning. So they changed the dispersion on submarine torpedoes. So, you know, right now they're launching very tight spreads. They changed them to be wider spreads. So they made it 11 degrees forward and 3 degrees stern, 16 for bow tubes, 11 bow, 16 stern, 11 bows, 5 for stern, 11 bow, 16 bow. Like, they changed this. This change will make it much harder to hit the same spot on a ship with a salvo of unguided torpedoes. So this was already their shotgunning fix. And this worked. It stopped shotgunning. And you know what they did? This was done the 2nd of June. On the 10th of June, 8 days later, they undid every single nerf. Every single shotgun nerf, they undid. With no explanation. No explanation, but every single shotgun nerf they did, they undid. They put the dispersion back into tight dispersion. So the idea that we need all of this convoluted shit to fix shotgunning is complete nonsense, because they implemented a fix that worked probably too well, and then they undid the entire fix. So the idea that the only way they can stop shotgunning is through all of this shit is complete nonsense. Because I have the fucking receipts. Because they tried a different fix and it worked great. So, yeah. And then they added Gato, which is a fucking shotgunning ship. And then they fucking advertised their shotgunning in Facebook ads, where submarine surfaces and shotguns a ship. And that was part of their advertisement. So, yeah. While taking into consideration the impact of the improvements for detecting submarines and dealing damage to them, we plan to improve the turning circle radius of all submarines so that they have more opportunities to avoid detection by enemy ships, timely change in position, and better maneuver among the islands. Improve the turning circle. Don't they already have the best turning circle in the game? Like, am I missing something? Like, if I sort all destroyers and all submarines in the game, every destroyer, every submarine, and I sort them by turning radius, submarines, destroyers, submarines, destroyers. Like, these are low tier. Well, if you remove the low tier destroyers from the mix, it's gonna be nothing but submarines. Shit, if you go all the way up to tier 8, It's submarine, 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 submarine. Then we got the black. And then it's more submarines. Like, and are these guys really in a need for better? Like, submarines stop here. Top 20 best turning circle is more than half of all the submarines are in the top 20 of the best turning circles in the game. Like, did they really need that? These are the worst, the Gata and this, the shotgunners. And they got 670. I'm trying to understand, do they really need an improved turning circle? When they already have basically the best turning circle in the game. They have low speed under. The lower your speed, the better your turn. I mean, a big complaint with subs right now is that they're way too agile. They can outrun and outturn destroyers. That's a common complaint right now. And they're making them... They said, I think they were going to half this. On the stream, they said they were going to roughly cut the turning circle in half. They're not saying it here, but they said it on the stream when I watched it. So, they already have the best, and now they're going to be the best by a mile. Which seems really ridiculous. Outturn ASW. That's what I'm really worried about. 4501 does 44 knots underwater. Yeah, I know. It's... You already can't catch it unless you're like a French destroyer with speed boost. Among other changes, audio and visual submarine collision warning will be added to the game for submarines, allowing submarines that have not detected each other to be aware of approaching one another at a distance less than 2 kilometers. Just add proxy spotting. Just add back proxy spotting. What would happen is a submarine would run at the enemy team and another submarine would run at your team, and then both these idiots would proxy spot each other, and then your team would blow both of them out of the water. Obviously, the solution here would be that these submarines stop gunning it down the middle into the enemy team in a straight line. That would be the logical solution, the same way a destroyer can't run it down the middle into the enemy team. But instead, what Wargaming did was remove proxy spotting so that these two idiots can fucking pass by one another, licking their fucking monitors as they passed by one another without either one seeing each other. That was their solution. Instead of hoping that the player base would get better, they changed the way these ships work to let these players do this dumb shit. It's like the issues once again here are that Wargaming is so willing to hold the hands of the CV and sub player base instead of just making them work the same way other classes work. High-fiving each other, farming 3 points. Yeah, exactly. As another step in solving the shotgunning problem, we will test torpedoes with a gradual speed and damage increase over range. Bro, I just showed you guys what the solution was. Wargaming knows what the solution is. Add a spread. And you know what another solution is? Arming distance. It already exists in the game. If you launch a torpedo, there's an arming distance before the torpedo can explode. If you make this arming distance on a submarine, let's say 3 kilometers, that will prevent them shotgunning, because they need to be outside of 3 kilometers to launch the torp to have it arm and actually hit you. Most torpedoes in the game have an arming distance. This is a value that's already in the game, it's easy to understand, and it's easy to tweak. But instead of this, gradual speed and damage increase over range. Okay, if this solution is effective enough and a good fit for a game, some more submarine torpedoes may be rebalanced to be less dangerous in close proximity and more powerful at long range. Dynamic torpedo speed. The torpedoes will be very slow when first launched until a certain range, for example the first 3 kilometers, then their speed will gradually increase. This should give surface ships more opportunities to evade shotgun attacks. This will not remove it though. If they just wanted to remove it, they have two different solutions. Arming distance and the dispersion, which has been tested and tried. Dynamic torpedo damage. Similarly, the damage from the torpedoes will be very low within close proximity, and after traveling some distance, their potential damage will increase. I cannot wait to see them try to implement a dynamic torpedo speed and a dynamic torpedo damage into their spaghetti code. Also, homing torps, the slower they go, the better they turn. A good example is the Alliance torpedoes. They're very slow. That's why they turn like Sidewinder missiles. So adding very slow torps means that close range homing is going to be absolutely insane. But this is the amount of bugs I'm thinking, the amount of issues that this is going to cause. And once again, this is such an unnecessary convoluted solution when there's such simple solutions. Dispersion or arming distance. Two mechanics already in the game, very easy to implement, very easy to make a part of the game. We know how they work, they're already in the code, they're easy to tweak. It's literally change a number on the ships, that's it, and it's fixed. These are things that are exceedingly easy for them to change. But the thing is, I don't think they really want to remove shotgunning. I think they want to pretend like they're doing things about it without actually removing it. Because if they really wanted to remove it, there's two very clear solutions they can use, and they're not willing to do either. Instead, they're willing to develop these two dynamic methods. So this to me is a pretty big red warning, or big warning sign to me, because if I can already think of two clear solutions, you know the developers of the game have obviously thought of them as well, but they're unwilling to implement either, and that's a problem. That's a fucking issue. Some submarine upgrades. We're planning to update submarine commander skills, most likely in the first half of the year. Quite some time has passed since their introduction, which allowed us to gather data and feedback to revamp them. There's also quite a wide scope of changes, and we can share an exact date yet as a result, but we'll keep you updated. So what is the TLDR? Ships that should have had ASW from the beginning are getting ASW. A new consumable is being added, but only really to backline ships, so it's not going to change the close range fighting against subs at all. The Hydrophone consumable nerf is good. It's absolutely good. The fact that it still doesn't let surface ships know they're spotted is an issue. It absolutely should. Most of these changes that they're doing could be solved by just making Hydra working as subs, but they clearly don't want to do that. The whole warning about running into another sub could be fixed with proxy spotting, but that would require the submarine players to actually not run in like idiots at the start of the game, and Wargaming clearly likes that they run in like idiots, so instead they give them this. This entire dynamic shit, it looks like a big fucking disaster brewing. It just looks like a complete shit show. I don't understand how this is going to be more simpler to implement and simpler to explain than just your torpedoes can't arm until they reach this range, or your torpedo dispersion is this wide.